Hi, everybody. My name's Matthew. I'm going to be showing you the tool Dotstorming. So to access this tool, you go to dotstorming.com. There will be a chance to sign up for a 30-day gold membership, which just gives you unlimited boards and walls, which of course those are features I'll go into. It costs $5 a month after that. Organizations can get it at a discount. That is, of course, a con that eventually it will cost money, but there is always a free option available with less capability. So I chose this tool and I really like this tool for a few reasons. It's very good for formative assessment, especially the wall feature. It's highly collaborative in nature and it's user friendly in that it mimics social media in the case of voting board. And it's also reminiscent of Google Docs in terms of the wall feature. So let me get into the voting board feature first. But before I do that, let's create a workspace, which is the highest level of organization for a project. So let me call this the class name tutorial, and you can make it externally visible, which that's more in the case of certain networks. I'm not entirely sure the extent of that, but I don't think it's applicable for today. So we go ahead, I'll create a new voting board. Let's go to the one that I created just now. So let's call this tutorial one. That's fine. You can create a description. So the voting style is actually, so you can either like posts like on Facebook, for example. Dot voting just gives you a chance to give multiple votes to each post. If you want to rank them, for example, you can share these via link. Card options, there are many customizable options, so you can choose if you can or cannot insert images, for example, and you can change what the voting icon looks like, the color, if there's authentication required to join, lots of options. So let's go ahead and create the voting board. So the posts are called cards on this app. So you can add a card, a post, students can vote on it. So I have the dot one on. I gave each student 3 votes. So I'm adding all my votes there. You can also comment, add GIFs, emoji. So it's like social media in that sense. Go ahead and post the comment so I can view it later on if I want to. You can add more cards. You can add ones with images. I'm going to go ahead and link a YouTube video to this one. Again, you can vote on it, make comments. This may not be totally useful for one-shot lessons. You could perhaps have different examples of citations and have students vote on which ones are correct, for example. But it's more suitable towards something longer term, like creating a blog, for example. There is a chat option. So if it's totally remote and maybe students don't have a chance to use their microphone, you could have a chat here. And yeah, those are the main features for the voting board. I am going to focus more on the wall for the teaching example. So let's go ahead and do that. You can make it private and there's all these joining options. You can also enable different features. I'm going to keep all of them for today. All right, so a teaching example could be if you are working on keyword creation, Boolean phrase creation. The instructor could create a card. These are also called cards. They look kind of like Post-it notes, very customizable. Let me make the instructor example. You just click wherever you want on the workspace. So the example could be student wants to know more about painting in 15th century, if I can type here, 15th century Florence. And maybe the instructor puts the instructions for the activity onto the side, create keywords, Boolean phrases. You could keep this off to the side. There's an option to lock it so students can't move it around. So you could have multiple groups in the class, maybe 3 to 4 students per group. This is group 1, for example. Maybe I also want to lock this. And I would instruct students create separate cards in a web shape around what I provided. You can also create text boxes. You can draw lines. You can draw shapes. You can insert images. lots of customizability here. So maybe an example student response could be, maybe they search Florence, they do not want results with Pisa, they don't want results with Rome, and maybe they want painting, include that. Student 2 maybe wants a different color here, so they might just be saying 15th century painting and Florence. And maybe they're not sure what else you can do. And then the instructor could do some formative assessment and check which student posted what and say, hey, student 2, maybe you would like to include more keywords. Maybe you might be too broad. For example, we could in real time give this feedback to the student. And another feature for these cards is the clustering ability. So this might actually be more useful here in the instructor's prompt. You can then cluster the student responses this way, and that's just another form you could make. It doesn't have to be a web, but you can't have it locked. So students would have the ability to move this around. And if you don't want them to do it, you could simply just tell them not to. Let me go ahead and exit out of here. So those are the basic features. I think they're extremely useful. Some minor cons, as you can see, the voting board and wall are not present here. They should be. Some things tend to disappear and you sometimes need to reload the page. That's the same with the wall. Some shapes might vanish when I lock them, which is not so useful, not so ideal. So be prepared to deal with maybe some glitches, but they have been solvable by reloading the page. Other than that, it is a very useful tool, and I highly recommend it for one-shot lessons. I hope you learned a lot, and feel free to email me with any questions. I'd be happy to speak more. Thanks so much.